Hello and welcome to our second ever LFC Bible podcast with me, your host, Gav. Joining me today from last week is Admin Ron.
Hi.
And also joining us today is the third Irishman of the group, Ray.
How you doing?
So in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing a little bit about the last match in Stoke. Now I know, Ray, you weren't too happy with Lovren before the match, but how did you feel after the match about Lovren?
I thought he'd done very, very well. I was very impressed with him. You're always looking. He always could have a mistake in him, but compared to some of his games last season, I think it's towards the end of last season, even I think it was Crystal Palace at the Gerrard's last home game. He was even making mistakes there. But at Stoke, the midweek, he looked cool, calm. He seemed to marshal the defence. He has a voice. We know that he can get forward. No, I was very impressed with Lovren, pleasantly surprised, and I think keeps it up. I think Sacco could have a job in his hands getting back in there. Definitely.
Well, like that, I felt that he deserved the Man of the Match award, and I gave him the Man of the Match award. And surprisingly, the comments were resoundingly in favour of that. I was expecting, because Coutinho got that amazing goal, that the fans would sway towards Coutinho, but they didn't. They sided with me in that I think the top post about Coutinho getting Man of the Match was only something like 12 or 15 likes. So, and in explaining this Man of the Match system, we're going to have a player of the season at the end of the season, hopefully, if this podcast keeps going. So each time you win the Man of the Match award, it's not just towards the player of the season. So the more player of the season, or more
Man of
Man
the
of the Match
matches.
awards you win, the better chance you have of winning player of the season.
Yeah, makes sense actually. Yeah.
For me, again, I thought Coutinho, obviously, that moment of brilliance, it deserves man of the match for me, but again, I can see where you're all coming from for Lovren's performance. I saw a Vine on Facebook, on Twitter, where he did that wee turn, that wee Coutinho turn to get past the player. And it just shows you the confidence he sort of has. I mean, I don't know whether that was a fluke. It almost looked like one, but I don't really care because he played really well, and obviously he marshalled the defence very well as well.
And I found that he helped out Gomez a lot because I felt for Gomez because every time he got the ball, I kind of felt like he was Sacco. I was
Yeah.
nervous every time he got the ball in defence, but when he
But
came
we're
up attacking, Gomez was brilliant.
and on top of that, Gomez, it's one thing marking any player, but he had Jonathan Walters, who, as Irishmen, we know all about Jonathan Walters. He must be a nightmare to mark. He's strong, he's tough, he's at you constantly in games. And for what age is he? 18 to come in
Yep.
and mark
Yeah,
him in his
18, like,
first
yeah.
game for Liverpool. I thought Gomez was very impressive, and he even got an assist to his name. With the pass to Coutinho. So good debut for him.
Yeah. Obviously, Jonathan Walters is very experienced as well. I'm pretty sure he used a lot of his experience to go against Gomez, cutting in, going outside. And Gomez, I thought he handled that very well, to be honest with you. And obviously, yeah, Lovren helped out. I was watching the match replay, the full match replay, and yeah, a couple of times I saw Lovren help him out. And that I see that as good because that's just he's got the qualities of not a captain, but yeah, a vice captain anyway. And obviously he hasn't got it. Milner's got it, but if he can marshal the defence, yeah, that'd be good for us because that's what we're lacking. We're lacking a voice at the moment in defence.
Definitely. Ray, I know you're a big admirer of Benteke. How do you feel he played?
I think he was quiet. Now he didn't get much chances, but I wouldn't lie. I was convinced he'd score. Convinced. So I was a little disappointed he didn't get on the score sheet, but it wasn't too many chances from. But no, I think I've seen enough from him to be pretty confident he's going to prove a lot of people wrong this season. I hope he does, or otherwise I won't be able to show my face around any places.
Any avid listeners from last week's podcast would understand that Andy, our owner of the page, has a bet on with Ray here about the Benteke signing. What was it? 20 goals or
20
more?
goals.
Yeah. So Ray really wants him to score well, play well. Sorry. Well, what I was going to say was the way we played, the style we played, because I feel as if Mignolet really started playing long ball, which I don't really like. I sort of liked it. I sort of would have liked him to start passing from the back. Giants.
No, I was delighted to see him ushering lads up the field, and he actually got the ball into the opponent's half. That was something I've never seen Mignolet do. Like, I was
Yeah.
very impressed with Mignolet.
That last year when he had that spell out in December time, he sort of said, it was because I wasn't making decisions enough. But it's sort of good in that last year we had Sterling up front basically, and he could not win headers, or Coutinho, he couldn't win any headers. But if Mignolet decides to kick it upfield, we actually have somebody there to head that down, and I think it's a great option to have.
Another new signing that came in was James Milner, and I felt Milner had been in the team for. It seemed like he'd been in the team for the past couple of seasons. He bedded in very well. He was good at passing. He was everything we wanted him to be, and he was dogged in defence, and he was good going forward. And I just wanted to know, how did you feel about Milner's performance?
Yeah, well, I think Milner, like, he's a touch of class about him. He was the one signing, even before the game, people are going, I wonder how Gomez will do. I wonder how Benteke will do. I wonder how, all our new signings will do. But nobody, nobody was saying, I wonder how Milner will do. Everyone was just confident that he has it. And he looks so cool. I think he's just a touch of class. I think he's an excellent signing for free as well. I think he has the potential to be a Gary McAllister style signing for us.
Yeah,
and he's a lot younger as well.
We've absolutely robbed Manchester City of a perfectly amazing player, because as Gavin just said, you sort of feel as if he's been there since 10 years ago, because everybody does, and Ray saying, everybody was talking about how Gomez would do, Benteke, Firmino, all these new signings, but nobody said Milner, because you sort of expect him to be there, you sort of expect him to put a shift in, and that's what he did. He did a perfectly good job commanding that midfield, and Steven Gerrard would be very proud.
I think so.
I think so. He would. And on social media, we saw Gerrard was watching the match. It was a little upsetting to see it, but you know what? I think the team's doing well without him. I don't think we're talking about him too much. I think this is the first time we've talked about him on the podcast.
Very true, yeah.
So I'm happy that, we're not all hung up about him like we were about Suarez or Torres, and we're not even hung up about Sterling. I think it's that Benteke, Milner, Firmino. We're after going out. We're after buying a little older players, and I think
a bit more experienced players. It's good. It's good for us that we are doing that. Because what is the point of having, 18-year-olds in the team? I mean, yeah, you need them, but what's the point of having 18-year-olds in the team if you're only looking to sell them on for a profit? Because we sort of need that big money signings that can actually deliver, and not, Markovic, 20 million. What has he done? He's done nothing,
Well, I'd want him to start against Stoke, or Bournemouth, but we'll get to that in a while.
Yeah.
So another thing is, Ron, you were saying that you were disappointed in Lucas in the last podcast, and that you maybe wanted him to chip out the door. So it looks like your wish could be coming true in that West Ham and Inter Milan are being linked with Milner or Lucas after a supposed feud with Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he is a good player. He is still a Premier League quality player, just not a Liverpool quality player for me, because he doesn't have that cutting edge quality. I said this last week as well. I personally wouldn't like him going to West Ham. Inter Milan, I think, would be his best bet, because we don't really want to be selling to any of the Premier League teams, because he still has that touch of class and he still can play relatively well during his injuries and whatever he has, and the fact that he isn't getting regular game time. But Chan's there, Rossiter's there if need be, and I think Lucas is certain to the requirements.
I wouldn't know whether we should replace him with a big money signing though. What do you feel about that? Will we bring up someone like Rossiter, or is it Chiravella, or I can't remember how to pronounce his name, but that young lad that was getting a lot of game time in pre-season?
For me, I posted this a couple of days ago, I think, or last night, I think it was. I think bringing up Rossiter would be a very good role, but a very good decision, sorry. But I think Chan has a role to play there as well, because I was reading a couple of articles, and I think Chan can suit that role very, very perfectly, or if that makes any sense.
No, I'd agree. I think Chan got his trade in defence last season, and okay, it wasn't it wasn't ideal. But like Steve mentioned in the last podcast, Rodgers throws lads into the deep end and plays them in different positions just so they can get the pressure. And I think Can will be well able for a holding midfield role. And what do you think, Ray?
On Lucas, I won't lose any sleep over us losing Lucas. I think in terms of a tackling kind of play, I think his tackling has even gone out the window. And that was his main attribute. He seems to be all over players when he's trying to win the ball. Can't give out and going forward. So I wouldn't be sad to see Lucas go. I would prefer it though if we did bring in someone. I think if Rossiter had it, he'd be in the team by now, or he'd be making more of a
Bench.
push for the team or for the bench. But Chan, in terms of Chan in central in holding midfield, definitely 100%.
100%.
You look
yeah.
at him; he's very similar to Matic. Maybe not as the end product as Matic, but he's a similar style player. I think Chan has all the attributes to go in there. A midfield three of Chan in front of the back four and Milner and Henderson. I think that's an excellent midfield three going into big games, big Premier League games. We need
Well,
that bit of experience.
Well, I'm reading a lot of rumours about PSG's Thiago Motta. He was angling a move back to Atletico Madrid, but it fell through. Now, Motta's 32, and we wouldn't be paying that much for him. But to be honest, do we want to buy someone that only has a year and a half, 2 years left? Or do we
No.
want to get someone like Willem Carvalho or Sven or Lars Bender? You know, someone who can do it in that position and has
Yeah.
proved, well, Carvalho hasn't proven it, but the Bender brothers definitely have.
Yeah, obviously I would rather have Carvalho or the Bender brothers, either one of them, because both of them have been proven that they're good quality in the Bundesliga for the last couple of years. But experience-wise, if we're lacking it, I obviously can't see Rodgers buying Mata, but if we're lacking it, I think Mata would be a good call. But only on experience-wise. But then again, if we look at it, we do have Milner now, we have Toure, and I think experience-wise, we are fine. So personally, I would go for that big money, in quotation marks, big money signing.
Yeah, I just don't see us signing any other. I'd love it if we signed another holding midfielder as backup, but I can't see it. I think, who was it? Sunderland signed him via. I think we would have been linked with him, interested in him if we were going for a holding midfielder, but there seemed to be nothing there. I genuinely don't think we will sign a holding midfielder, but if it was my way, we definitely would, 100%.
Well, I mentioned that in the last podcast about Mvia, and I'm regretting it now because he's suspended for the second match of the season. He's I didn't realise, but he's an awful temper on him. So I think we dodged a bullet there. He could have been
Really?
another Mascherano type.
Get sent off?
I think it was retrospective action rather than him getting sent off.
Oh, okay.
So like Luis Suarez, not so much in the moment, but always after the match.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to Bournemouth. Now, with Bournemouth, they're a newly promoted side, but we did face them in the Capital One Cup last season, and we did think we'd get more of a challenge, but Markovic arguably had his best game for us, and I think we beat them 3-1 at their stadium. And this was at a time when they were top of the table, they were going strong. Now, Bournemouth have majorly improved in the transfer market, signing Max Gradle, who Jose Mourinho himself said could get into the Chelsea team. Tyrone Mings, a really exciting left back from Ipswich. An experienced centre-half in Sylvain Distin. Like, they're three signings that, any team outside the top six would have been lucky to make.
That is true. I think with Bournemouth, what we have is a newly promoted team, and they will be up for it. I mean, it's gonna be a Monday night game at Anfield, and what more would you like than to put Liverpool back in their misery? I mean, they will be up for it. Obviously, Eddie Howe's their manager, and he is a very good manager. He is an amazing manager. Obviously, he's done a great job with the team, but I think fitness-wise, will just come out better.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. I think that at home, we should do it because, to be honest, to be great if Benteke got off the mark. It would ease a lot. Now, I don't think there's any pressure on him, but it would ease a lot of his own internal pressure. And, be nice to get Firmino a few more minutes. It'd be nice to see a little bit more of Gomez. But with regard to the starting 11, how do you feel that's going to go? Do you think it's going to be the same as Stoke, or who would you put in
I,
instead?
I think the back four will be the same. I could see maybe Firmino coming in for Ibe or Lallana. Apart from that, I don't see major changes. Perhaps maybe Chan will start in there, but at the same time I can't see him dropping Milner unless he pushes Milner forward. But
Yeah.
but then again, at this moment of time with Liverpool, it's impossible to predict because then you forget. Look, Danny Ings, will he try out two up top against Bournemouth? Danny Ings
Well,
could come in against his former team. We don't know. It's exciting. It's frustrating, but ultimately it's great. Like to see that
you're after
none of us can
confusing
predict.
Bournemouth with Burnley there.
No, he was at Bournemouth, I think, before Burnley.
Yeah,
Oh, was he?
yeah,
Oh,
he
Yeah, he
was.
was. Yeah.
the host proven wrong. Well, so was that. I know Adam Lallana was at Bournemouth. That's what I
Yeah, he
was.
was.
That's what I thought
Definitely.
you might have got confused with.
No.
But like speaking about Lallana, I was really hoping he would have had a blinder against Stoke.
Yeah,
I thought both him and Ibe were very poor. Out of all of our players on that day, I wasn't impressed with them. I didn't think their product into the box was good. So I'd like to see maybe Origi or Ings and Markovic maybe in and around the bench even, just a different option, because I looked at the bench and besides Firmino we were pretty short with midfield options, attacking wise.
It's incredible where we go back 2 years ago. Where, like everyone could predict the starting lineup. Right
Yeah.
now, no, it's literally impossible to predict it.
I think
Personally,
we'd like 13 players that year. We came second in the league. But go
yeah,
on, right?
yeah, it's just yeah. My gut instinct will say it'll be the same formation, same back four, and maybe the only change being Firmino will come in there for either Ibe or Lallana. Apart from that, I don't see. But then again, we could all easily be wrong on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I sort of see Chan coming in. I don't think Firmino would be ready just yet. I see Chan coming in with either Milner or Henderson push forward a bit. But apart from that, again, I don't see any more changes.
Were ye that impressed with Henderson's free kicks the other day now? Because that was something I was thinking about bringing up. I was very, very unimpressed with his ability on the free kicks.
Yeah, I was surprised he even took them. To be honest, I deliberately had James Milner down. I thought James Milner would take our frees. I don't think he's. I think James would be a smarter option on the free kicks. I don't think Henderson's delivery or shot attempts at free kicks are as good as Milner's, like we've seen in Champions League for City and in the Premier League for City.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was against Hull. James Milner scored cracker for free kick in the last minute, but that's the only one that comes to mind. He obviously has the quality, and he can't do it. It's just that I think Henderson has a bit more learning to do, and I think in a couple of seasons' time, Henderson would be ready to do that. But just because you're captain doesn't automatically mean that you can take the free kicks or
Or
penalties.
penalties, exactly. And to be honest with you, I think Benteke should take the penalties. We've seen him; he's very, very good record of Villa taking penalties, and also continuing my love affair with Christian, his free kicks as well. He scored a few free kicks for Villa as well. So yeah, I think Benteke should throw ins, corners, free kicks, penalties, everything.
Yeah.
I think Firmino, from what I saw, I think he could take a free kick. He looked well.
Yeah,
We're just kind of presuming. Same with Coutinho. They're Brazilian.
yeah,
You'd kind of be hoping they could
yeah,
do
yeah.
something.
I mean,
But
as I said, by Coutinho, even if he doesn't take free kicks for me, I'm not very impressed by his corners, to be honest. A lot of the
no.
time, so I don't think his free kick would be as good as any better than his corners, to be honest. But if he can score those worldies 4 or 5 times a season, I'd be happy enough.
So Ray, how do you think the scoreline's going to come out?
Um, I think we should win. We should be comfortable. I see us, easily. We could easily win 3-0, 4-0. But as we've seen before in the Premier League, we can't be too confident, and we've seen it ourselves before. Newly promoted teams coming to Anfield. We've seen Blackpool a few years ago done us over, although that was during the dreaded Hodgson era. We've seen even, I think last season was a Burnley beat City 1-0. So we can't be too confident. But if I was to put money on it, I do think we'll be comfortable enough. 3-0 maybe.
And you, Ron?
For me, I'm going to say a very solid 2-0. It's going to be a professional performance. We're going to turn up, we're going to do the job, go home, and everybody's going to be happy about it. I would hope Benteke gets off the mark, but I can't see him scoring just yet. I would sort of see either Ings if he plays, or sort of Milner trying to get on the score sheet. Because obviously he's impressed me throughout pre-season, and he scored a couple of goals in pre-season as well. So
I was just saying, Firmino. Sorry, I think he got a hat trick in the behind closed door game during the week, and I was listening to Tony Barrett from the Times. He was singing Firmino's praises. He was saying that they're very, very impressed with Firmino at Anfield at the moment. So maybe we can see him on the score sheet. You never know.
It was against poor opposition, though. It was against TNS. Now I know I only know of TNS because back many moons ago when the Champions League was a staple for us, I think we played them in the knockout stages at one point.
First game I was ever at Anfield.
Wow.
Rare could have happened.
I can just the new Saints. That's the only reason I can remember because it's such an odd name.
It used to be called Total Network Solutions back then, so they've changed. I think. Yeah, that's what it was called.
I thought they were called the new Saints. I just
they are now.
presumed it. Are they? Okay.
They are now.
I wasn't sure. Well, I'm going to agree with Ron. I'm going to say 2-0. I'm going to say I feel like Skrtel Lovren's going to get a goal, and I hope Benteke, but I'm going to settle for Milner or Coutinho or someone getting off the score sheet. Just anyone.
Yeah. I don't care. It could be Mignolet on the score sheet, but that win will be vital for us.
Yeah, I definitely think so. With as we were saying, those crucial away matches, we need to pick up as many points as possible early on.
Yep.
So we're going to go to the fans' favourite section, which is the Q&A. So making it in for the second week in a row is Aaron Lamount, and he says, how far would you expect us to get in the Europa League, and do you think Rodgers will give Enrique Balotelli and youth players a chance to prove themselves in Europe? So we'll go with the first part. How far do you expect us to go in the Europa League?
I think with the Europa League, it's again, it's going to be difficult because so many games. You could be going anywhere in Europe, and also on top of that, we don't know who is in it because the third place in the Champions League, of course, comes into it. I'd like to see us have a very good run in it. I think it's much more important than the FA Cup or the League Cup, personally, because you get into the Champions League with it.
Yeah.
I think it'd be very important, and I'd like to see us have a decent, good run in it. I think we're capable of it, but it all depends on who we get in the group stage, because if we get teams from Russia, Eastern Europe, a lot of travelling, that could really, really be a problem for our season. But if we get a nice draw in the group stage, I think it could give us a bit of momentum, plough us on.
My aim would be the semi-finals at least anyway, because the way I look at it is it's our way into the Champions League. The top four is looking strong. I was hoping Man City would capitulate, but they didn't. They held it up against West Brom. I was hoping Big Ricky would do us a favour, but he didn't, and that really put a dent in my hopes. The top four, but I thought Arsenal could win the league, and they lost against West Ham. But you know what? It is early days, and we won't get too bogged down by it. How do you think, Ron? How far do you think we'll go?
Yeah, as I said, for me, in the last podcast I did say, Europa League is very important because it ticks 2 boxes. It's a trophy and a Champions League spot for us. So concentrate on that, because it doesn't really matter where we end up in the league if we get that Champions League spot. But again, as Ray said, it depends on who we get, and if it's a lot of travelling, far Russia, far Eastern Europe, that could be a problem for us.
Well, going on to the next part is of Aaron's question, which is, do you think Rodgers will give Enrique Balotelli and youth players a chance to prove themselves in Europe? This is where I see those away games being crucial to players like that. Like Adam Bogdan will get a bit of a shout in the away games if we're playing a big team on the Sunday. Players like Kolo Toure will be playing a lot. We're going to see a lot more from Can, I feel, in Europe. We're going to see a lot from Markovic. Lallana's possibly going to be playing a big role in Europe. And I see Ings and Origi being very, very important. Well, Joe Allen's out injured. He should be back for the first.
He should be back. Yeah. But I think the first game is in the 18th of September or something like that. So, he should be back by then. Yeah.
Yeah, but the players like that, our bench players. Now, with fullbacks, that's again another area where we discussed in the last podcast there. We're a bit lacking in depth in the fullbacks. So probably Moreno. It depends on how Rodgers goes with Moreno or Gomez at left back. But it's either going to be really crucial for one of those players. And I
Yeah.
don't know who he's going to play at right back besides Klein. I really don't.
Yeah, I was
I
Well,
haven't...
amazed he let Wisdom go.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
same because I thought if Wisdom was going, I think Flanagan would have come in. But again, I know he's injured, but I thought his recovery would have been better than expected. But
Well, it is looking better than expected from what I'm seeing on Instagram. Like, I see he's back training.
yeah, but
But from what I've heard, it's looking November,
yeah,
December.
exactly. It's looking Christmas time, and what's the point? Because we could just recall Wisdom back from loan if it's Christmas time and we're struggling. So I'm amazed we let Wisdom go because we actually have no cover. I mean, we have Henderson we could play there, but he'll be a waste at right
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, or Chan maybe at right back.
Yeah,
But
that's a good call actually.
Any youth lads you'd like to see get a game?
Jordan Rossiter, as I said earlier in the podcast as well, I love the lad for some reason. I just think he can go into that defensive midfield role and actually do a job. You know, he's motivated, he's young, and I think he's decent enough, and I think he can really do a job. I'm amazed Ojo left the Wolves on loan. I thought he could have played a part for us in League Cup and the FA Cup, maybe in Europe if he impressed well, but I'm sort of happy enough for him to go out and loan and get some experience rather than sit on the bench or on the reserves.
Well, I think I read that the Molyneux fans were roaring his name, so clearly they rate him. So I'm hoping he has a great season there.
Yeah, I think I was reading somebody retweeted this on my timeline. It was before he even got onto the pitch. They were all singing his
Yeah.
name. So yeah, hopefully he gets that bit of support, and hopefully he can grow well like I did as a player.
Any youth shouts for you, Ray?
I think Brannigan is a player I'd he's very highly thought of. A few weeks ago I would have said Sinclair, but it seems to be clear that Sinclair is going to be moving on. They were wrong about him. They felt he was going to be better than he was. He went on loan, I think, twice, and he didn't impress. So I think they're looking to move him on. So I would have said Sinclair, but yeah, I think Brannigan maybe. And we have a left back at the club whose name is it's an Irish
Maguire?
name, but he's Maguire. That's the one. I'd like to see him get a shout. And also, I don't know if he counts. He's young, but I don't know if he counts as a reserve player with Origi. I think in Europe will have a big part to play this season.
Would I be able to just add on Teixeira? He's got a lot
Yeah.
of game time in pre-season, and he's impressed me. He's that sort of Coutinho player for me. I don't know why. He just sort of reminds me of Coutinho when he plays. Obviously, he hasn't got that quality that Coutinho has. He hasn't got the finish that Coutinho has. But for me, I think throughout the course of the season, I think he'll definitely be in with a shout.
My only worry about Teixeira is his age. I think he's 22, isn't he? And I
Yeah.
just, when you hear about a 22-year-old, you think, whoa, it's mad to think, but you think, geez, that's a bit old,
I
at
thought-
22 to be breaking in.
I thought that as well, but I went onto his Wikipedia page, and I know you can't really trust Wikipedia,
Yeah.
but he came to Liverpool at 19. He, obviously first season was difficult. Last season he went out on loan to Brighton, and he was
Brilliant.
from what I garnered, he was very impressive. He made like 30 odd appearances, broke his leg. He's back now. He is only going to be a big part player, but I do think he could be the sub Coutinho for
Yeah.
us.
As long I hope he is a sub Coutinho, but I just have a strange feeling he could be another Suso full of promise, but just seems to disappear.
Yeah.
So, but I hope not.
So our next fan question is from Stephen King. Now this is a long one, so bear with me. Is buying young talent based on potential worth the risk rather than buying older proven players that can potentially guarantee top four, even if they only last 3 or 4 years? Even at this point, if we hit the jackpot with a young player, a bigger club is most likely to come in and pick him up and try to take him away from the club. But it's a little bit different when it comes to the older experienced players, if that makes sense. I think it does, Stephen, but we'll see what the other lads make of it.
That makes sense to me as well. I think it's not worth the risk of buying young players. Obviously, you need them, as I said earlier in the podcast. You need them, but you need good players in there. You need proven players in there. I think that's what we've done with Milner, But we need a couple more players like that, big money signings. Benteke, yes, but he is in Champions League quality. But we need to try and get people. I know we aren't in the Champions League, but we need to try and get people in the Champions League to come to us, because we aren't some sort of mid-table Premier League club. We're still one of the top clubs in England, and I think we definitely have the potential to recruit players, but I don't think we're just trying hard enough, and our transfer policy for me isn't exactly right.
With our transfer policy, I'm worried we're going to go off and buy Reece Oxford. I have a feeling we are going to. I can just sense that. I do think he's going to be brilliant. Because I watched him against Arsenal and literally he had Ozil in his back pocket. But that's just the kind of player that Liverpool would buy, or Man City. Man City probably put in a £50 million offer next week if he plays well against Leicester. That's who I think West Ham are playing this weekend.
Yeah. That's I mean, Ray, do you have anything to add on to that?
In terms of the transfer policy, I think it's all about a healthy balance, lads. It's no good going out signing 5, 6, 7 young 18-year-olds who with full of promise, or going out signing, doing what Chelsea do, going out signing 18, 19, 33-year-olds. But if you look at a team like Juventus, which is the perfect balance between the two, they're signing players who free agents from clubs, just like we've done with Milner. They're signing also young players full of promise, like they did with Morata from Real Madrid. Something like that, Pogba. I think. Paul Pogba from United. Then they got Pirlo. I think he was 31 when they signed him. Pirlo. They signed he who shall not be named, Mr. Patrice Evra. They signed him. They've made good signings and they're reaping the benefits from it. I know it's a poor league. There's no real else. There's no one else competing against them. But I do think.
Well, they got to the Champions League final, and that just proves that what they're doing is working. Yeah,
so I think if we were to copy any club's transfer plans or transfer.
Policy.
Yeah, if we were to copy any team's transfer policy, I think Juventus are they're an excellent team to try and mirror, definitely.
And like that, you saw it's never two old players playing beside each other. I'm just thinking about their midfield. You've Paul Pogba, who's really young. You had Pirlo and Marquinhos, and they had Vidal. Like that midfield. There is no midfield better than it. I don't care what you say about Real Madrid or about Barca. That midfield, in its sense, sounds like the best midfield in the world to me. Now, okay, Barca would have the world class wingers in that, and Suarez up front, and Real Madrid would have brilliant players all the same. But like that, I don't think that midfield cost them £15 million, if even like.
That's
and
true.
we spent £15 million on Joe Allen. I think that's something value
and his beard,
and his beard, his famous beard from the last podcast. It's just something I find we get caught with players with transfer fees. I was just thinking a while ago, like Firmino, 29 million. If we had tried a little harder, could we have got it down? Yeah. I know the owners are multi-millionaires, but it's just for the fans. It makes us a lot more happy when we see a bargain come through the door.
At the same time, it's catch-22, really.
Yeah.
If we were complaining that we wanted, we want just go out and sign a player, you're so tight, just sign a player. Then to sign a player, and we're like, you could have signed him a bit less than that. Do you know what I mean? So it's a bit catch-22, but I do understand. I know where you're coming from in that one, yeah.
Yeah.
But like that as well, just something about the transfer policy that I think we should do is, we seem to be selling off this one player a summer, and I don't mind that, to be honest. I felt Sterling, we're not we could end up missing him, but at this moment in time, touch wood, we're not missing him. But we should have had all our transfer business done and dusted by then. Because I felt, Villa got that bit more money for Benteke because we got the extraordinary amount of money for Sterling. That's just something that I feel, that FSG could do a little better.
Yeah, I think Spurs planned for that, because before they sold Bale, they had that massive recruitment of over, £100 million. And I think Spurs did that very, very well. I mean, all the signs didn't go to plan, but their policy was good in that, try and get the players in, try and do the business before you sell the players, so other clubs know you have the money to do it.
Yeah. All right, lads, so we'll leave it there. I've been your host, Gav, and I'd like to thank my guest on tonight's podcast, Ray and Ron.
Thank you very much for having us on.
Cheers.
Thank you.
We hope the match goes well against Bournemouth, otherwise next week's podcast will be a little dull and dreary. So let us know in the comment section below any ways we can improve this podcast, and make sure to like this podcast and share it with all your friends so we can get a few more views. Thank you all.
Cheers, boys.